But the election's going to be fun, folks. Get ready for the election. It's going to be a fun one. And I do think democracy has not worked. Can we say that? Can we put that out there as a thesis? Can we throw that out as a thesis and then work backwards from there? Yes or yes? I'm asking you, do you look around and feel that democracy has really worked? Maybe it hasn't even been tried. I mean, we're a republic. We're not a democracy. But we're not even that. We're more like an oligarchy, and then that's also failing, right? The oligarchy is kind of failing because, Dave Smith made a good point about this. I'm not a libertarian, but I do like Dave a lot. People, we all know the people are nuts. The people, a lot of the BLM Antifa types that are like knocking over restaurants are nuts. We know that. We see them. We go, that's a crazy person. We say that's a crazy person because we know there's no route from what they're doing to anything better, right? We know that by knocking over brunch tables, we're not getting to an equitable, fair society where people are treated with respect. And it's also the wrong goal, by the way. The goal should be to change laws and to have laws govern people's lives so that they have the maximum amount of opportunity. The goal should not be to create or change everything at once because none of that ever happens or ever works. There should be specific, pinpoint focus on things that are fucking people and that you can change, and that it shouldn't just be this broad eat the rich horse shit that never works, never has worked. And the other side of eat the rich is just some type of authoritarian socialist state that is run by people that will corrupt like every leader does, and then run the state into the ground and run everybody that lives there into the ground as well. That's just historically what has happened, right? That doesn't mean that you shouldn't, like the carried interest loophole on Wall Street, you should eliminate. That should be get rid of that first. Doesn't mean you don't do anything else, but it means like there's things you can actually fucking do or try to do. But we know that the people knocking over the brunch tables are nuts. And we know on the other side, the people that are walking around talking about an ethno state, with AR-15s, you don't really want to throw your hat in with those people either. That's just not what you look at both groups of people, you go, I bet they're not going to run a real great society if we give them the opportunity, right? 17-year-old gamers who want to bring back the monarchy versus fat non-binary women from Seattle. Both options nugget for society. But we forget, and this is Dave Smith's point, how radical the center is. How crazy the center is. How truly detached the elites are, the center. They have also left the planet. The center, and I don't mean the majority of people in America. When I say the center, I mean the people that have any power, any influence, the people that are elected, the people that are behind the people that are elected. Those people as well are completely out of it. The centrists, the ones in the middle, cannot just be for eternal war and a financial system that crushes people and no health care. And that's the center. Those are the safe people. That's the safe choice. Just unending war. Manipulating fucking, currency, crashing economies all over the world, driving our economy off a cliff every 7 years in his boom and bust cycle, charging off all of our debt, letting it be serviced by all these other countries. That's the center. And that's also a big problem. I think people forget that because it's easy to point out how crazy the people on the streets are. But why are the people on the streets? Because the center, the people in the suits, the people that look respectable, the people that have lovely families, and you go sit down with them, you have lunch with them, when they start talking, you go, oh, you as well are fucking insane. You as well have lost it. I was in the Hamptons talking to people. They're going, aren't the problems mainly on Twitter? I'm like, they're burning down. What? Their cities are falling, and you people are drinking rosé in your backyard. They don't have a clue. They're out of it. They're living in this insular bubble. They have no idea what is happening. And they're the center. They are the Buttigieg, Klobuchar, centrist. They're not people that you would ever point out and go, that's a lunatic. But when you hear them talk, and when you realize that the policies they don't think it's a problem that we have the level of wealth inequality that we do. They don't think it's an issue. And one of them said to me, one of them said, well, wait a minute. They go, what is this? What's the problem with this wealth inequality? So I'll give you a few problems, but I said one of the major issues that I can, because I'm smart enough to realize I'm not going to try like an emotional appeal with these people. I said if you have a small group of people that have all of the money, they also have all of the political power. So the problem is that in a democratic system or a republic or whatever we fucking are under the impression this thing is, if you give if the money is earned and hoarded and kept by one small group of people, they also make all of the decisions, syringe in your ass, Bill Gates, so that becomes an issue too. And they said, oh, well, I can see your point there a little. I go, yeah, a little bit. I see that. I said, you see? So people don't have any power anymore. Right. I see that. Yeah. And then one of them goes, well, they can vote. That's what they say. Right. You can vote. Right. Just vote. What's the problem? And I'm like, yeah, but the lobbying and the legalized bribery, the bribery that isn't legal, the blackmail, right. All the skullduggery, all the fun that you people have been having forever. Yeah, that kind of overrides the vote, doesn't it? Not saying you shouldn't vote. And I'm not saying, by the way, that the opposite of voting is like, let's go fuck up a brunch, because somehow then these people are going to be dethroned. But the center is fairly radical. It's wild when you talk to people, and they're not radical in their appearance, and they're not radical in many of their beliefs. Like many of them are pretty, regular, down the middle kind of. But when you start talking to them, we're all radicalized by our self-interest. This is really what it comes down to. I think that's part of the issue. The radical nature of a lot of people's beliefs. Sometimes it goes against their self-interest, but a lot of times it is perfectly in line with what they want either the world to look like. And even if you don't understand someone's self-interest, like you look at all these rich kids saying that they want communism, that doesn't make any sense. It does when you realize that they actually just want anyone to pay attention to them. And that's the one thing they haven't been able to buy is their value and worth as a human being. So that's why they're walking around unironically calling themselves Maoists, walking out of Starbucks with a cold brew, and then stomping around the suburbs saying that they're Maoists. They just want fucking attention. So that is in their self-interest. But I mean, all these Wall Street fucks out there in the Hamptons, and I only spoke to a handful of them, but the ones that I spoke to are incredibly detached from what is actually happening out there. They just don't care. And when they talk about it, their belief, it is a radical belief to say, aren't the problems just on Twitter? That's a pretty radical, wild take. Because they can afford the news. Many of them are friends of the people who run those companies. You know the news, right? You could just turn it on or glance at it occasionally, and you would see how big these problems are and how widespread they are. To say something like, isn't it mainly on Twitter, shows that you're just so completely removed from it. And that's why a lot of these elites are just incapable of charting the right course for America. So if Trump leaves, don't think for a minute that the people coming in, I mean, Biden was chosen because he is a corpse. Make no mistake. He was chosen because he is a corpse and because he's a company man, and he's going to go in there and they're going to keep with the same policies and the same attitude that created Trump. That type of empire at all costs, fuck the people mentality. Politics is Beyonce shaking her ass and having a trans Batman. That level of commitment to the American people. Workers can fuck off. People that have families can fuck off. But if you want to jet around to Little St. James, you'll have the best legal defense possible. But politics being primarily the color of the superhero has not worked. And that's what it is. A very aesthetic, optics-based politics in which nothing gets done by design and little people get little breadcrumbs, a little nugget of this and that. Here you go. Enjoy this. Obama came in, tried. That didn't work.